right, well, after the shooting massacre at a French satirical magazine in January, there was a lot of soul searching over what's fair game for ridicule. The Prophet Muhammad, for one. Now, a second shooting in Texas has reignited the debate. When is poking fun free speech or pointed provocation? Most Americans had never heard of Charlie Hebdo when two gunmen forced their way into its Paris headquarters in January, gunning down 11 people and injuring 11 more. They were targeted for daring to draw cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. At the time, there was fierce debate over whether the drawings were a legitimate expression of free speech or hateful and irresponsible.
My civil libertarian impulse is you have to make it more open, not less.
Now it's happened again, but with yet another twist. In Garland, Texas this week, two gunmen with assault rifles approached a conference center where a Muhammad cartoon contest was taking place. Both were shot dead before they got inside. Conference organizer Pam Geller defended the cartoon event.
Increasingly, we're abridging our freedoms so as not to offend savages.
But talk like that have led some to charge that Pam Geller and her American Freedom Defense Initiative is nothing more than a hate group hiding behind the right to free speech.
A group the Southern Poverty Law Center has labeled an anti-Muslim hate group was holding a Prophet Muhammad cartoon contest.
And there is some feeling that the rush to lionize Charlie Hebdo has gone too far, too. This week, several writers boycotted the prestigious PEN Awards for honoring the magazine with a Freedom of Expression Award. In a letter signed by dissenters, they wrote in part, the award is valorizing selectively offensive material. Yeah, I mean, this thing in Texas was nothing about free speech. I mean, a cartoon contest. I guess we were sort of slow to pick up on Pam Geller, but I listened to a lot of what she had to say this week on Sean Hannity, and she, by the way, blames the liberal media. That's one of her saws, you know, for not recognizing that what radical Islam is all about. She's not saying we should recognize that this is a free speech issue, because I think largely the media does, but her mission was not about free speech.
No, it wasn't. However, anti-Muslim hate groups are protected by the First Amendment too. I mean, we have gambled the entire American experiment on freedom of expression. And we need freedom of expression most clearly when it's speech that we hate. And what Pam Geller does head a very hateful group, there's no question about it. They are protected by the First Amendment just as much as anybody else. We don't need the First Amendment to protect us from covering the church picnic. We need the First Amendment for these situations, whether we like them or not. It's uncomfortable, but I think that's where we're at.
Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, clearly what she's doing is hate speech, but hate speech has a legal definition, which I'm grasping to get all the details right now. Are you about to say that?
One of the things I was going to say, and then feel free to hop in here, is that it seems to me, Dan, you were talking about First Amendment protections, it seems like what she does, an argument could be made that what Pam Geller did fits this criteria of fighting words, which represents a limit on the First Amendment, that if something that you're going to say is likely to cause a violent reaction in which people are going to be harmed, that it is, in fact, not protected by the First Amendment.
Well, I actually understand that part of First Amendment law quite a bit, and I'd say it's a real stretch.
Yeah,
it's a real stretch.
You don't think that given sort of the nature of part of the Islamic world today, that there's a broad enough tendency to say that any blasphemous images need to be met with lethal violence that could be applied here?
What I'm saying is that the constitutional standard is pretty much limited to see those people over there, go kill them.
But that's incitement. I'm talking about the fighting words exception, which I think is different.
Right. It's a little bit different, but they're largely the same concept. And I don't see how this would be covered by the fighting words.
But my point of bringing that up about saying that it's a legal definition is that some groups have been charged and prosecuted based on that legal definition, which is what you're saying, the fighting words, the inciting to. And in this case, she is open about wishing to incite.
Right. She's probably
so
happy
to me,
with the outcome.
That that makes it
that.
Yeah,
she probably is.
So of course, at the same time, to your point, if she is, I mean, hate ugly speech, unless you're inciting, and it's under the fighting words, is protected by free speech. So it really comes down to how that definition is defined in any given situation.
Maybe this creepy group, Pam Geller and company, should have posted trigger warnings outside the hall so that the gunmen, on their way in to try to slaughter random strangers, would have been warned off, and they could go to the comfort room and cuddle with stuffed animals like they do on college campuses these days. Look, as Dan is trying to say, free speech means that hate speech is allowed, not without constraint, fire in a crowded theater, and what you two were debating, fine. But it also means you're free to ignore or publicly revile the hate speech and the hate speakers. The notion that major figures in the media, in interviewing her during the weekend, Eric Wemple in the Washington Post does a brilliant takedown on this, went into what he calls a crouch of cowardice and rationalization by saying, well, we're not justifying the gunman trying to slaughter you all, but, no but. There's no but about it. And if they think there is, then maybe they should be in the comfort room with the stuffed animals on the Brown University.
Well, the other extension of that is the media giving a platform to Pam Geller. It's one thing to have her reacting to what happened this week because her group was targeted, but she's been prominent all along.
Prominent.
I mean, it's like the Westboro Baptist Church, a bunch of nobody. And before you know it, they get this prominence, and she's constantly on with that other guy, the rabid Islam.